Hello my friends, it is May the 31st of 2022. This video is entitled Doom Metal for Beginners. Okay, so I have a list of 20 doom metal bands here. So for those of you who are curious about doom metal or who are just starting to get into doom metal, I highly suggest that you check out these bands that I'm going to be listing, okay? Alright, let's get right into this. Okay, so the first band that I'm going to be mentioning is Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath are from England. They formed in 1969 and split up in 2017. Black Sabbath were very active for many years up until about the mid-1990s. And then they were just sort of on and off for many years. And then they finally called it quits in 2017, okay? They released so many albums, so many great albums. And yeah, such a legendary band, such a phenomenal band. Okay, so like I said, they formed in 1969. They are considered to be one of the originators of the whole heavy metal style, and a lot of people do consider them to be the true and original heavy metal band, okay? And some people do consider them to be the founders of the whole doom metal style as well, and I suppose that is true. They certainly had, on their earlier albums, a very much like a early doom metal type of sound. So I suppose their earlier albums could be considered like doom metal or sort of like proto-doom. Yeah, they certainly had a very, very significant influence upon what would become doom metal, okay, and a very profound influence upon a lot of the early doom metal bands, that's for sure, okay? Such a great band, okay? This is one of their albums right here. This is Master of Reality. This came out in 1971. Such a phenomenal album, a 10 out of 10, that's for sure. So many great songs on here, like Sweet Leaf, After Forever, Solitude, Into the Void. Such a great album, okay? Yeah, Black Sabbath. I'm sure most of you are familiar with them, but for those of you who aren't, definitely check them out. Absolutely essential band for any metalhead, okay? So that is Black Sabbath. Okay, so up next is Pentagram. Pentagram are from Washington, D.C. They formed in 1971. They are still active. Yeah, so there's been a lot of turmoil in Pentagram throughout their existence. Lots of infighting amongst members, lots of drug issues, and it took them a long time to really get going. Throughout the 1970s, they did release some singles and some demo-type material, but it took them up until 1985 to release their first full-length album, and that first full-length album is their self-titled album. And yeah, such a great band, such a legendary band. Unfortunately, there's been so much conflict amongst the band throughout the years. They're still around, which is surprising. They've had so many members come and go throughout the years. The only original member is Bobby Liebling. He is the vocalist of Pentagram. Such an interesting character. There's actually a documentary that was created about him, I guess about 10-12 years ago. Such an interesting character, that's for sure. Has lived a very wild and reckless lifestyle and has had a lot of drug issues, that's for sure. Yeah, a very interesting guy, okay? Yeah, Pentagram, such a great band, such a legendary band. I highly recommend them, okay? All right, this is one of their albums here. This is Relentless. This came out in 1993. This is actually a re-release of their first full-length album from 1985. So it's the same album as their album that they released in 1985, just with a different name. It's called Relentless. Yeah, great album, an absolute masterpiece. I highly recommend it if you're going to get into Pentagram, okay? All right, so that is Pentagram. Up next is Witchfinder General. Witchfinder General are from England. They formed in 1979 and split up in 2008. Okay, so in the early 1980s, they released a couple of fantastic doom metal albums, okay? And then they split up, I think, in 1984, and then they reformed sometime in the mid-2000s and did release another full-length album. They weren't around for too much longer, but yeah, they did split up once again in 2008. And yeah, they did release 3 full-length albums, and yeah, such a great band. Unfortunately, they didn't release a whole lot of material, but what they did release is just fantastic, okay? All right, so this is one of their albums right here. This is Death Penalty. This came out in 1981. Great album. I really enjoyed this one so much, okay? And I highly recommend this album to those who choose to check out Witchfinder General, okay? Yeah, great album right here. Okay, so that is Witchfinder General. Up next is St. Vitus. St. Vitus are from Los Angeles, California. They formed in 1981, still active. They've released quite a few albums throughout the years. They've had some different members come and go. They've had a number of vocalists come and go throughout the years. They did release an album, I believe, back in 2019. I don't know if they're planning on releasing anything more, but if they did, that would be fantastic. And Yeah, such a great band. One of the earliest doom metal bands, okay. Yeah, I really enjoy them so much. One of my personal favorites. This is one of their earliest albums. This is Born Too Late. This came out in 1986. Love this album so much. 10 out of 10. Phenomenal album. So many great songs on here, like Born Too Late, Clear Window Pane, Dying Inside, Thirsty and Miserable. Yeah, I really enjoy this album so much. Fantastic stuff. Okay, so St. Vitus. Check them out. Okay, so up next is Trouble. Trouble are from Chicago, Illinois. They formed in 1979. They've released quite a few albums throughout the years. Yeah, I have listened to some of their stuff. Pretty good stuff, and their earlier material I know definitely had a little bit of that new wave of British heavy metal type of sound. Eric Wagner, who was the original vocalist of Trouble, he passed away, I believe, about a year ago. Eric Wagner, yeah, he was the original vocalist, and yeah, unfortunately he passed away. I believe that was about a year ago or so. Yeah, great vocalist. And yeah, Trouble. This is their first album right here. This is their self-titled album. It's oftentimes called Psalm 9 as well. Really enjoy this one. Great album. I really enjoy so many of the songs in here, like The Tempter, Bastards Will Pay. Really like that one. So yeah, great album. Such a legendary doom metal album right here. Okay, so that is Trouble. Up next is Candlemass. Candlemass are from Stockholm, Sweden. They formed in 1984. They are still active. They've released lots and lots of albums throughout the years. Such a great band. They definitely have more of that kind of like epic doom metal sound. Okay, yeah, they've had some different vocalists come and go throughout the years, and yeah, they've released quite a few good albums, and yeah, I really enjoy their music quite a bit. I do have quite a few of their albums, and so I chose this one right here. This is Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. This is their first full-length album. This came out in 1986. Considered by so many doom metal bands, or sorry, fans, to be one of the best doom metal albums of all time. Yeah, that's just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I really enjoy Candlemass. Such a great band, absolutely essential doom metal band. Okay, check them out. Okay, Candlemass. Up next is Cathedral. Cathedral formed in 1989. It's split up in 2013. They released lots and lots of albums. They had sort of like a traditional doom metal sound, kind of like mixed with maybe like a stoner metal type of sound. Okay, so stoner metal or stoner doom is basically like a variant of doom metal. It sort of has more of a kind of like a psychedelic or more of a drugged out type of feel to it, I suppose. Lots of stoner metal or stoner doom bands. Typically with the guitar tone, it has like this heavy fuzz type of sound. Yeah, so that's just a sort of very basic general description of what stoner doom or stoner metal sounds like. It's a variant of doom metal that sort of evolved sometime in I suppose the early to mid 1990s. Okay, and Cathedral were one of the bands that kind of pioneered that type of sound, although not fully stoner doom, but they definitely had that kind of early stoner doom type of sound. It certainly had a significant influence upon later stoner doom type of bands. Such a great band, and yeah, so they did split up in 2013. Yeah, here's one of their albums right here. This is the Carnival Bazaar. I believe this album came out in 1995. Great album. Really enjoy this one quite a bit. I've had this album for many years. I highly recommend it, and but yeah, they have so many other great albums you could check out as well, but this is a great one right here, the Carnival Bazaar. Okay, so that is Cathedral. Check them out. Okay, so next band is Sleep. Sleep are from Oakland, California. They formed in 1990. So yeah, Sleep would be considered like a stoner doom type of band. So they were active in the early to mid 1990s, and they split up sometime in the mid 1990s. I don't recall when exactly. It may have been around 1998 they split up. So they did release 3 albums during that time period from the early to mid 1990s, 3 full-length albums. Then they split up. The members went their separate ways. Some of the members formed other bands such as High on Fire and Ohm. Okay, Matt Pike, who is the guitarist and vocalist of Sleep, he went on to form High on Fire, and High on Fire has been very successful. And so yeah, Sleep did reform some years ago. I don't recall when exactly, but they have released another full-length album since, and I believe an EP and possibly some other material since. So they are still active. Okay, so yeah, great band. certainly one of the best stoner doom bands of all time. Okay, so this is one of their best albums right here. This is Jerusalem. This was, I believe, their third, yeah, it's their third full-length album. Very good album. It's just one track. It's, I think, about 50 minutes long or so. Yeah, great. Great stoner doom metal right here, okay? All right, so that is Sleep, okay? Definitely give them a listen if you haven't, okay? Next band I will mention is CHAO. CHAO are from California. They formed in 1991 and split up in 1995. So they weren't around for too long. I believe they only released 4 full-length albums, I think. Yeah, they definitely have more of a kind of a rock and roll type of sound to them. Yeah, a lot of people do consider them to be like stoner rock. So yeah, and since they disbanded back in 1995, some of the members of that band have gone on to form some pretty successful bands, such as Queens of the Stone Age and some other ones I can't recall right now. But yeah, CHAO, yeah, they have certainly had a pretty good career, and a lot of people just absolutely love them. And yeah, so pretty significant doom metal right here, okay? This is one of their albums right here. This is Blues for the Red Sun. I think this is their second full-length album. Yeah, a lot of people love CHAO, and their influence still continues on, okay? They've certainly gone on to influence quite a few bands since then. Yeah, great stuff. Okay, so that is CHAO. All right, so the next band is Electric Wizard. Electric Wizard are from England. They formed in 1993. Yeah, they've released lots and lots of albums throughout the years, and yeah, such a great band, such a legendary band. Yeah, they are definitely a stoner doom or stoner metal band, whatever you want to call it, okay? And one of my personal favorites, and so they have gone through quite a few different lineup changes throughout the years. The only original member is Jess Oborn. He is the vocalist and guitarist of Electric Wizard. I do have all their full-length albums, and yeah, I love Electric Wizard. Yeah, I speak very highly of them. They have so many great albums. Most of them I really enjoy. This is one of their most influential and most significant albums. This is Dope Throne. This came out in 2000. This is considered by a lot of people to be one of the best stoner doom albums of all time, and just one of the best doom metal albums of all time. So yeah, great album. Okay, all right, Electric Wizard, give them a listen. Okay, so the next band is Down are from New Orleans, Louisiana. They formed in 1991. Yeah, Down are sort of like a super group of sorts. All the members from Down were in some or are in some pretty significant and pretty popular bands like Pantera and I Hate God and Corrosion of Conformity. Yeah, and yeah, one of my personal favorites. I really enjoyed Down. They have, it's hard to explain, they have sort of like this kind of mixture of different doom metal styles, I suppose. They definitely have more of a traditional doom metal style mixed in with maybe a bit of stoner doom, possibly some sludge metal. Okay, so sludge metal is another variant of doom metal. It's essentially doom metal that has elements of hardcore punk. So it's sort of like a blend of doom metal with hardcore punk. That's essentially what it is. That's just sort of a very general description of what sludge metal is. And so yeah, I would say that Down definitely have a little bit of that kind of sludge metal type of sound, I suppose. So yeah, they've released some pretty significant albums. Not too many though. I think they've released only 3 full lengths, a couple of EPs, and yeah, I really do enjoy them quite a bit. This is their first full length album right here. This is Nola. Yeah, absolute masterpiece. 10 out of 10 right here. Yeah, I love this album. I bought this album, I believe, when I was about 15 or 16. Absolutely love it. I still listen to it regularly. I highly recommend this album if you're gonna check out Down. Okay, so Down, yeah, give them a listen. The next band is Melvins. Melvins are from Washington, D.C. They formed in 1983. Still active. Yeah, they've released lots and lots of albums. I'm not too familiar with Melvins, to be honest. I think they've released well over 20 albums for sure, if not quite a bit more than that. Yeah, they definitely have more of that kind of sludge metal type of sound, although they've experimented with different styles as well. So there's sort of like a blend of different styles, but they are definitely known as being more of a kind of like a sludge metal type of band. They also had a very significant influence upon the whole grunge scene. Some people do consider the Melvins to be like the first or one of the originators of the whole grunge sound. They definitely had a very significant influence upon a lot of the early grunge bands like Nirvana and Mudhoney and all those types of bands. So yeah, Melvins, yeah, great band that have had such a great career, and yeah, definitely check them out. Okay, so that is the Melvins. Okay, so up next is Acid Bath. Acid Bath are from Louisiana. They formed in 1991 and split up in 1997, so they were only around for about 6 years. Acid Bath are another sludge metal band, and yeah, so during their existence, they only released, I believe, 2 full-length albums, but those albums they did release are considered like cult classics within the sludge metal scene. Okay, yeah, so many sludge metal fans just absolutely love Acid Bath, and not a band that I ever really got into. I've listened to a bit of their music, but yeah, I never really got into them, but I know that they are considered to be one of the best bands within the whole sludge metal scene. Okay, so yeah, definitely give Acid Bath a listen. Okay, so that is Acid Bath. Up next is Disembowelment. Disembowelment are from Australia. They formed in 1989 and split up in 1993. Disembowelment are considered to be a death doom band. Okay, so death doom is another variant of doom metal. It's essentially doom metal that combines elements of death metal. That's essentially what it is. So death doom more or less started sometime in the late 1980s, early 1990s, and Disembowelment are considered to be one of the originators of the whole death doom style, and they only released 1 full-length album and maybe a few demos, but that 1 full-length album that they did release, I can't remember the name of it, it just escapes me right now, but that 1 full-length album that they released is considered to be one of the best death doom albums of all time, and one of the original or one of the first death doom albums ever released. And so yeah, they've had they've been pretty sick. I've had a pretty big influence upon the whole death doom style, that's for sure. Okay, so yeah, that is Disembowelment. Definitely check them out. Okay, so up next is Paradise Lost. Okay, so Paradise Lost are from England. They formed in 1988 and they are still active. Yeah, they've been around for a long time, and I believe they've released, I think it's about 17 full-length albums now. Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of Paradise Lost. I've been getting much more heavily into them as of lately, especially, or over the past number of months. I just absolutely love them. And so yeah, Paradise Lost, they started off as being more of a death doom band as well. They're one of the sort of like originators of that whole death doom style, but after a number of albums, they definitely changed their style and sort of gravitated or mutated or evolved into more of a, I suppose, like a gothic doom type of band. And so yeah, gothic doom is another variant of doom metal. It's a bit difficult for me to describe, but it's, I suppose it's more epic, it's more grandiose, it's more, it has sort of like maybe like a romantic type of vibe to it. A lot of these gothic doom bands incorporate keyboards as well as clean vocals, oftentimes like clean female vocals, or they'll have sort of like this Beauty and the Beast dynamic where there will be sort of a combination of clean and scream vocals. Yeah, that's about the best that I can describe it. Gothic doom is typically quite melancholic sounding. So yeah, and Paradise Lost are one of the originators of that whole gothic doom type of sound, and they've kind of changed their style throughout the years and have gone back to combining some elements of death doom into their more recent albums. But yeah, they're very much still like a gothic doom type of band, I would say, largely. But yeah, they have a lot of albums, and I'll show you this one right here. This is Gothic. This was released in 1991. So yeah, pretty significant that it's called Gothic, because they are obviously one of the originators of the whole gothic doom sound. And yeah, great album right here. Certainly one of the best doom metal albums of all time, for sure. Okay, so yeah, Paradise Lost, such a great band. I just enjoy them so much, and I highly recommend them. Okay, so yeah, check out Paradise Lost. Up next is Catatonia. Catatonia are from Sweden. They formed in 1991. Okay, so yeah, Catatonia, another one of my personal favorites. I just love them so much. I have all of their full-length albums. So yeah, Catatonia actually started off as being more of a death doom type of band as well. Their first couple of albums had that death doom type of sound, But they as well gravitated into being more of a gothic doom type of band. They definitely changed their style pretty significantly sometime around the mid to late 1990s. Yeah, they definitely changed their sound pretty significantly, and yeah, they definitely have more of that kind of gothic doom type of sound, very melancholic sounding, very epic sounding. Yeah, just such a great band, and such incredible songwriters. They have come out with so many great albums throughout the years, and yeah, I just enjoy them so much. They have so many great albums, but yeah, I'll show you this one right here. This is Tonight's Decision. I definitely recommend this one, but you know what? You could check out any of their other albums. Most of them, or all of them, are just phenomenal. Yeah, just such a great band that has been so consistent, and yeah, great stuff. Okay, so yeah, definitely check out Catatonia. Alright, so that is Catatonia. Up next is Thergothin. Thergothin are from Finland. They formed in 1990 and split up in 1993. So Thergothin were only around for about 3 years. Okay, so Thergothin are considered to be like a feudal doom band. Okay, so feudal doom is another variant of doom metal. Essentially, let me try to describe this the best that I can. Feudal doom is essentially a style of doom metal that evolved from death doom. Okay, so you can kind of trace the style of feudal doom to sometime in the mid 1990s, I suppose, sometime around there. And feudal doom is essentially, it's very slow. It's got to be one of the slowest styles, if not the slowest style, typically, of all the doom metal styles. It's typically atmospheric. It's quite dark. It has guttural vocals typically, although some bands do combine clean vocals. It tends to be quite atmospheric sounding, very dark and melancholic, quite dreary sounding. So yeah, that's about the best that I can describe feudal doom. Okay, so yeah, and Thergothin are considered to be one of the originators of that whole style. A lot of people consider them to be the original feudal doom band, and their one full-length album that they released, called Stream from the Heavens, is considered to be one of the first, if not the first, feudal doom album. It's considered to be one of the most significant albums in all of feudal doom and doom metal in general. Okay, so yeah, Stream from the Heavens, that was the one album that they released, and it's still beloved by so many doom metal fans and feudal doom metal fans, of course. And yeah, such a great band, but unfortunately they were only around for a brief period of time. I don't have the album Stream from the Heavens, unfortunately. I'd love to get it, and I would imagine at some point I will get it, but yeah. But yeah, they're Goth, and definitely check them out. Okay. Alright, so up next is Evokin. Evokin are from New Jersey. They formed in 1994. Evokin are another feudal doom band, one of the earliest and one of the originators of the whole feudal doom style. They've released a lot of albums, or quite a number of albums throughout the years, and yeah, I enjoy their style quite a bit. Definitely some of the finest feudal doom out there. Yeah, they've released so many great albums, and yeah, I really enjoy their stuff so much. And here's one of their albums right here. This is Quietus. Great album. I definitely recommend checking out this album if you're going to check out Evokin, but they do have lots of other great albums, but yeah, this one right here is very good. Alright, so yeah, Evokin, excellent feudal doom. Check them out. Okay. Alright, so up next is Typonegative. Typonegative are from New York. They formed in 1990 and split up in 2010. Such a great band, such a phenomenal band. I enjoy their stuff so much. I've really been getting heavily into them over the past several months or so. I wasn't into them when I was younger for whatever reason, but I've now been really getting heavily into them, and I want all of their full-length albums. And yeah, so they have more of that gothic doom metal style, and yeah, really good stuff. And I think they've released 7 full-length albums, and yeah, great band. Unfortunately, they split up in 2010, and that was the result of Peter Steele. Peter Steele was the bassist and the vocalist of Typonegative. He passed away in 2010 from heart failure. Yeah, he had been sick for some time, and yeah, unfortunately he passed away. I think he was 48 years old. It was quite tragic. I remember when he had passed away, I remember hearing about that, and yeah, such a great musician, such an interesting person as well. And yeah, unfortunately he passed away, and unfortunately Typonegative are no longer around, but they did release quite a few great albums, and yeah, such a great band, certainly one of the best doom metal bands of all time, that's for sure. Okay, so this is one of their albums right here. This is October Rust. Great album. This is considered to be, by many typonegative fans, to be their best album, or one of their best albums, and certainly one of the best doom metal albums of all time. Absolutely. Yeah, great album. Yeah, typonegative, I highly recommend them. Okay, so yeah, definitely check out them. All right, so that is the typonegative. Okay, the last band on my list here is Neurosis. Okay, so Neurosis are from California. They formed in 1985. Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe Neurosis. They're one of those bands that's just, it's hard to sort of categorize them exactly. They actually started off as being a hardcore punk band. Their first couple of albums from the mid to late 1980s were actually hardcore punk. They definitely had that classic or old school hardcore punk sound, but then they really changed their sound pretty dramatically. They definitely evolved into being more of a, like a doom metal combined with elements of sludge metal, with elements of, it's really hard to explain. They have like this experimental type of sound with so many different types of elements, and they're very atmospheric oftentimes, and they combine like tribal elements, but yeah, they're quite heavy, pretty heavy, especially some of their material, and yeah, they've released so many great albums throughout the years. Such a unique, such an original band that sort of defies categorization, but yeah, really interesting stuff. One of my personal favorites. I do have a lot of their albums, and yeah, they're still around. They've been pretty consistent throughout the years. Their core lineup is still the same. Like, I mean, the lineup really hasn't changed at all, I don't believe. I think maybe one member has come and gone, but like the main members have remained since their inception. So yeah, it's quite impressive, and yeah, great band, and I really highly recommend them. Here's one of their albums right here. This is Through Silver and Blood. Great album, an absolute masterpiece. 10 out of 10. It's just a mind-blowing album. It's just incredible. I bought this album many years ago when I was about maybe 22 years old or so, and yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. I just enjoy this one so much. I think this album came out around 1996. Yeah, I really enjoy this one so much, and I know other Neurosis fans just absolutely love this album. It's certainly one of the best albums that they have, and certainly one of the best doom metal albums of all time, that's for sure. Okay, and yeah, I highly recommend Neurosis. Such a phenomenal band. Okay, so yeah, definitely check them out. Okay, all right, so that is Neurosis. Okay, so that was doom metal for beginners, and that was my list of 20 doom metal bands that I highly recommend to people who are curious about doom metal or who are just starting to get into doom metal. Yeah, I really feel like these 20 bands that I've discussed are great bands to really get into if you're just, yeah, like I said, just getting into it. But yeah, there are so many other bands I could mention as well, but these 20 right here, I just feel like these are some of the most important ones, and some of the best bands to really get into if you're just starting to get into doom metal. Okay, all right, so let me know what you think. Leave some comments. I'm always curious to know what you guys think. Okay, so I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I want to say thanks to all the people who watch my videos and subscribe to my channel. I really truly appreciate it. Okay, so take care, my friends. Cheers.